Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United. Season 2 of the podcast starts right here. And if you watched on from last season, or at least listened on from last season, you'll know that this is the first episode of where everything starts to go really badly wrong. We're trying to bounce back from 15th place in the Premier League and heartbreak in the Europa League. And let's be honest, one of the worst finals I think any football fan has ever seen in their lives. My name is Kieran McGinley, and I'm fantastically saying to be joined on the first episode of this podcast by Toluwa and Cormac. Gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Cormac, we haven't seen you in so long. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, no, it's been a good while. Took a bit of a holiday before the season ended, so yeah, it's been probably longer for me than the other guys on the podcast. But no, doing good. Yeah, it's good to be finally back with a new fresh season upon us. So be good, just fresh slate and see what United can do this upcoming season.
And Toluwa also as well, good to have you back as well. We started to sort of fall apart towards the end of last season. We were right in the thick of it at the time. But new season, surely new aspirations.
Yeah, honestly, I'm in agreement with Cormac. Like, I'm just ready for the new season. Last season is behind us now. Looking forward to seeing what Amrim can do, because for some reason I just have confidence that he can really change things at the club. We've already seen he's really no nonsense, getting rid of a certain group of guys. So I think he can change things to the most of that he can, because I know he still needs to be backed by the board and things need to change behind the scenes. But I have confidence that this will be a better season.
Let's hope so. Hey, let's hope so. We were this optimistic last year, about this time last year, actually, when we first started up the podcast. Let's hope really this time that it goes a little bit better. Let's start first of all let's start with Ruben Amrim for starters, because you mentioned as well that he's been quite, let's just say, cutthroat in this transfer window. He knows what he wants. He knows who, more specifically, to sell. And the BBC came out with an article about 6 hours ago from recording that's titled "The Man United 5 Ousted But Not Out," written by Simon Stone, the chief football news reporter of BBC Sport, where, in his words, he says Ruben Amrim was unequivocal. Did he know what he wanted his squad to look like when Manchester United returned for the start of pre-season training in July? Yes, he said, I have a clear idea what we want. As you know, we're a bit limited. We can't do it all in one summer, but there's a clear picture for what we want. And obviously, the so-called titled on BBC Sport, "The Bomb Squad has been truly outed," is one quote for a subtitle in there, where it mentions the likes of Anthony, Garnacho, Rashford, Malacia and Sancho, estimated, it says, to be earning wages of a combined total of £1 million a week. And in essence, trying to see where they will go. We've already seen Sancho, Chelsea have paid £5 million to Manchester United to give Sancho back to us after his loan. Whoever negotiated that contract deserves a little bit of a hiding. But Cormac, I'll come to you first, because the Fantastic Five, we might call them on this podcast for now, are going to be such highlights in the transfer window. We've heard the rumours about Rashford going to Barcelona. We've heard Garnacho leaving, Anthony potentially wanting to stay at Real Betis. What say of the five?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, out of all the ones you name, I think probably have the best chance of moving on Anthony out of those loan spells between him, Sancho and Rashford. He was really the only one who had a good one. You could say Rashford's wasn't terrible, but it was nothing special, and Sancho's was just desperate. But yeah, I'm glad kind of Amrim's taking a stance on them, but I feel like it is going to be hard to move them. I think Anthony maybe, but I honestly can't see Garnacho or Rashford going unless we take a severe pay cut on the transfer fee, which we won't be too happy about, because especially Garnacho's been so highly rated the last few years, and we had chances probably to get a lot from him. And same with Rashford. I think Villa could have paid 40 million from there, didn't want him. And then, Sancho, I'm not sure how much it was in the Chelsea clause, but I think it was around like 30 mil or something like that. And we can't even move him on. So I think Betis, if I were them, I think I'd go in for Anthony. I think he was superb for them last season, arguably their best player, taking them to a European final. And then, Rashford and Garnacho, it's going to be tough to move them. I wouldn't actually mind seeing Rashford maybe getting a few games, but I think Garnacho definitely is one I want to see gone. And then, we obviously have the likes of Malacia in there as well, who should definitely be gone.
Yeah, these are names that keep coming up on our podcast as well. I know sometimes we get a little bit tired about talking about them, but it is a transfer window. So these five are going to be really high on the agenda in terms of where they rotate in the news cycle. What do you think, Toluwa? How do you see the Fantastic Five panning out?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I totally agree with Cormac on like pretty much everything. I think Anthony is the one guy that doesn't really deserve to be in that mention just because he tried. I'm not saying he was good at all, but at least he tried. Sancho, Rashford kind of gave up at some point. Sancho gave up a long time ago, especially with the freedom Instagram comment. Like to me, that was because I used to have a poster of Sancho on my wall. I took that down so quick because to me, that's just like you don't care anymore about forget the institution and who you work with. You don't even care about the fans at that point. So it's like you already show your true colors. A lot of those guys laid their bed and they slept in it a long time ago. And we just kind of had to try and give them the benefit of the doubt, but they just kept showing us over and over that they just weren't fit enough to wear the shirt. So yeah, I agree with Cormac that Anthony, he probably has the best value. I'm sure there's a lot of teams in Spain that like he would fit their profile tremendously. So he would probably get gone. I don't want to see a loan for Rashford or Sancho though. I just want them out completely. I agree
Yeah,
though. If Rashford can be of some use, then why not? I wouldn't be mad at it, but it's like if we can get him gone, let's just get him gone. Let's not play around with the loans and try and figure it out next season when we're still trying to get rid of more players. Like I don't think any Man United fan would disagree in saying that like there's certain players that are still at the club we still got to get out, and they're not going to leave this summer, but they're definitely going to leave next summer. So I agree totally, and I'm just ready to see the back end of those guys because I'm really excited about Cunha. When I was watching his interview on United's YouTube channel, he just looked ready to go. He was like, I don't care what the situation is. Like, I'm going to do my best for this team. And we've already seen he can do it in a team like Wolves, who are a bottom half team, like us, I guess. But like us, I guess. But he can do it for them. So he's in a better squad. There's a clear identity now. There's a clear vision, like Amrim said, and I'm just hopeful, I guess.
better squad, Toluwa. Yeah. We'll put a little citation, a little star next to that, at least for the last season. I can't get the image of you like with the Sancho poster up and you're all just tearing it down at the moment. Just
I
no,
tore it down,
absolutely not. The sort of tear marks are still there on the wall where it's left. But
probably.
yeah, it's. I think I agree with you. Anthony, out of all of them, seems to be the shining star, and make of that what you will. As you said, he went to Betis. He got his head down, started playing really well, and whether it's a fact that maybe he was a better fit in that Betis squad. Some players when they move to a massive club, or when they move to a club that's riding with a lot of pressure, United right now, it can be really hard to hit the ground running. It can be really hard to show the fans what you can do and play with that confidence because it's almost like you're marred by the weight of expectation. You come in as this, what was it, 85 million pounds, was it? I'm sure we'll be correct on that one. But that's a huge price tag for any player to come in at any club. So I think when Anthony went to Betis, the pressure eased a little bit because Betis are, they're challenging top half. They're probably, getting into Europe on the occasion as well. There's less pressure, yes, but I feel like that gives Anthony a bit more freedom to be the player that he wants to be the player that can have a bit of flair in La Liga. And I do think he suits it. And as you both said as well, it's frustrating with the likes of Garnacho and Rashford. We didn't sell while the stock was high. I think with Rashford, I understand why, because he's a product of the academy. Manchester United are very much protective of whoever they bring through the academy. They are protective of those assets right up until the moment where they, your Real Madrids or your Barcelonas or your PSGs come in to sweep them up. I feel like Garnacho was a missed opportunity with that Real Madrid interest. Was it a couple of seasons ago? Maybe a season and a half ago? Maybe we should have capitalised on when his streak was hot. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. Hindsight is 2020, and we couldn't have predicted that Rashford and Garnacho would both kind of fall off in the way that they did. And they have been exiled essentially by Amrim. Amrim's sort of, whether he's been very puzzly about it, whether he's been very obtuse about it, say what you will, but he's made his stance clear and he can't back down now. These five are going, and that's that. And we look at sort of players that have already departed, who got released. Lindelof Ericsson, Johnny Evans. I mean, I would have loved. I'm sad as well. Niall will be absolutely heartbroken that Johnny Evans has now left the club. But how is it for you, Cormac? Then Johnny Evans leaving the club after returning for what was initially a 1 month contract, turned into about a year and a half.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone thought Evans would have the impact he had. He's played a lot more games than we expected, and he done a fine job. I think a couple of man of the matches in there as well. But no, it is sad to see a player like that, kind of really the last one from the Fergie era, played under him and winning plenty of titles back, at the start of his career. And no, it is a sad one for Evans. I always liked him, was a professional all throughout his career. And yeah, he was a tough one to see go, excuse me. And then Lindelof, it was right time for Lindelof to go. He really just didn't live up to that expectation of when we signed him, a good few years back for like 30, 35 mil, which was pretty decent money back then before the market really got inflated. And yeah, it's a shame he just didn't work out. Had the nickname the Iceman. You're expecting big things from him, and I mean, he done an okay job at times, but I don't think he turned into the starting centre back we really all thought he would be. So yeah, I mean, sad for Evans, and then Lindelof and Ericsson as well. I mean, Ericsson done an okay job, but I don't think too much was expected of him. I know that first season, probably a lot of people were saying he could have been up there as like signing the season free transfer, coming in, doing a solid job. But, with all he's gone through with his body, he just, especially last season, he just looked very slow and sluggish, and I think it was the right time for them to move on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Johnny Evans, as you said, being the last of the quote-unquote old guard, feels weird to say it's the old guard, but the last of the Ferguson breed. I think it summed up for me, Johnny Evans, that penalty being won in the final game of the season, he makes sure Ericsson is the one that takes it. And when Ericsson questions him, he's like, I'm not taking it. Johnny Evans gives the face of, what are you talking about? Of course you're taking it. Take that penalty now. Just different breed was Johnny Evans. I think we will miss him in the side, and did a fantastic job as a squad player. Ericsson, again, as a squad player, really good option when it came to be. I think he did struggle against the physical sides. He really did get exposed, but that's to be expected, as you said, Cormac, with what he's been through in his career. I think the fact that he got to play in a Manchester United shirt, I think is great for him. And I think he'll look back on that with fond memories. He still wants to play at a top club. He still wants to play at the top flight. We'll see where he ends up in this transfer window and beyond. And Victor Lindelof, I think a bit player. I think I would have loved to have seen him be maybe 5 years younger and see what he could do in this system. But again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and it is always 2020. I think Lindelof played okay, wasn't the best defender in the world, ended up being a squad player, not a bad squad player at that, but yeah, still sad to see him go. Toluwa, what do you make of our three sort of released players or retired players?
Yeah, Johnny Evans, just to me, such a great player that, like Cormac said, really reminds me of just the glory days, honestly. Even though back then I didn't really rate him, which is crazy. Because to be honest, he was always kind of like third, fourth choice. But he was solid in that role either way. Especially when Chris Smalling and Phil Jones came through, it was kind of like he kind of just fell out for me. But he still always performed when he was called on, and he did the same thing in his second stint, which is all you could ask for at his age, especially. Lindelof was actually, for me, a sad one because I really expected him and Eric Bailly to be like our next center back core, Like when they first came in, they had so much promise and they started off well, but then just something fell off. Maybe it was the injuries because they both did suffer from injuries. I don't know. I just feel like that's just the story of our lives at United. Players come in with so much potential and they have everything going for them, and then boom, injury, or boom, confidence drops, and then they just can't seem to recover. And by the end of his time at United, he was just so bad. I just felt so bad every time he played. And he was bad because Amrim would only play him when we had literally no other option. Like, that's how I knew he was bad. So it's like he just another one of those players for me where I just wish it could have been more. But it is what it is. I'm glad that he's gone because now we can finally start to rebuild and get some of these players out that just have not been performing, and they're on good wages. And then Ericsson, yeah, like you guys said, with the things he's been through, especially his age as well, it's not like he's fairly young. He's getting up there in terms of of being a footballer. And he's been a great servant at every club he's been at. He always gives his all. But like you guys said, he was just too slow this last season. And in a formation like this where you kind of have to be decently fast, yeah, he just looked out of place. There were times where his brain was just still moving faster than everybody else, but his body just couldn't keep up. So it's just another case of like, let's just get these players out now. I know it kind of sucks that they all left on a free. It would have been nice to get some value for them, especially since we paid, at least for Lindelof. I think we got Eriksson for free, that's a positive at least, and Johnny Evans for free. So, but yeah, these players for what they are. I'm glad that they were at United for the time that they were. It's just kind of sad to see that this is how it ended for them. I wish it would have been much better.
Yeah, I think we'll look back at the three of them and sort of think what might have been in better circumstances. But yeah, when we come back after this, we'll talk about a couple of new arrivals into the club, as well as maybe touching on a couple of rumours. Here's a clue. It's going to be a long one until the end of August in terms of transfers and whatnot. There's plenty of rumours because, as we always say in any transfer window, who aren't Manchester United linked with? We'll be back after this.
Every club,
every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club,
every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
It's, of course, the big money signing, another one, coming through the doors at Manchester United. It's Matheus Cunha, who joined from Wolves for a fee reported by Transfermarkt of about €74 million. He comes with plenty of experience, of course, in the Premier League. He's made 82 appearances in the Premier League, scoring 29 goals and having 13 assists as well. Toluwa, I'll come to you. What can we expect from someone like Matheus Cunha? What can he bring into this Manchester United side?
Man, he can give us just a new way of moving forward with the ball. I just love his attacking intent. Like I said, his passion for the game it seems like he just wants to play no matter what. He just wants to play and be impactful. And the way that he can drive forward, the way that he can spur his teammates on, the fact that he's the type of player that we wanted Garnacho to be, I think he's just a massive upgrade on Garnacho. The only problem is we don't really have a backup in case he gets injured. But thankfully, we have less games. So maybe there's balance that we can, somewhat find. But he can just bring us so much on the ball that we've been lacking. I feel like he's way more calm and composed than Garnacho was. Garnacho had the right intent, but he just could never execute it consistently. And Cunha can show that he can take the ball, drive forward, beat his man, be physical. He's strong and he's fast. And we need that. That's the type of profile we need for the 10. Because I feel like whenever Bruno Fernandes plays on the left 10, or maybe Zirkzee is there, we have no pace. The only pace down the left-hand side is Dorgu, who's just up and down, up and down. But then eventually that gets found out. So what do? We go to the right. And it's kind of the same situation where Ahmad is really good, but Dalot isn't really up to par. So I feel like this finally gives us that piece we've been missing for on the left. And we've always wanted that mercurial left winger. I feel like ever since I've been a fan, I've just always wanted our left winger to emulate Ronaldo. That's what I've always wanted. Maybe not in terms of goals, but just impact and the way they drive forward. And Cunha seems to be somebody that can kind of fit that mold.
Yeah, I've got to say, when he was playing at Wolves, really good player. I just worry about price tag, Cormac. Is that something to be worried about, or can he prove the price tag essentially?
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough one because Wolves, I think, just survived relegation 17th, so paying that much for a player from a club who nearly got relegated seems a lot. But I think, Wolves paid 50 mil off Atletico Madrid for him, so it's not like we've gone too steep on that original price. But no, for me, I'm actually very happy with the transfer. I think looking at Cunha at Wolves last season, I think without him, Wolves get pulled down and potentially get relegated, I think he was by far and away their best player. And yeah, as Toluwa said, he's just really exciting player. The drive he has, everything he does on the ball seems to be kind of what we're missing right now. And I think he's a player, especially in the attack where we've struggled, United can really rely on. And I think he'll be like a consistent player versus, the likes of Garnacho, who we all know is so inconsistent, Rashford, inconsistent. So I think it is refreshing, and I'm glad we've gone for an attack and signing first, because I think that's really where we struggled. But no, I'm really happy to see Cunha in a United jersey, and he's gotten that number 10 jersey now. So I'm hoping the pressure, he'll be able to burst through that, and should put aside the rest of the signs we made, how they've kind of been cursed, and really flourish and become a staple in that attack for the next 2 seasons for us.
I think as well, he's 26 years old. He signed a 5-year deal. So, statistically and on average, we're signing him at the peak of his powers. So I think that's, a step in the right direction. I think we've been caught napping and, say 2-3 seasons ago where we were signing these star players, but right towards the twilight of their careers, and wondering why after 1 or 2 seasons they weren't the player they were, a season ago. I think with Cunha, we've got this player hopefully for the next at least 4 or 5 years of a powerful striker, or second striker if you like, able to really make an impact in that, the 2-10 roles as you put it, Toluwa. Really give Bruno Fernandes the option. You've got the playmaker Fernandes if he starts in that attacking midfield role. You've got Cunha to maybe make those runs in behind towards a Xerxes who might try and hold up the play. I feel like it's got potential, that one. But it will also add firepower, and firepower is something we so desperately need heading into the new season, as it's been made abundantly clear because of how far down the table we were. Another transfer that came through the doors, an 18-year-old, Diego Leon from Paraguay, I believe. For €4 million, he made the switch from Cerro Porteño. I do apologise to any of our Spanish listeners out there. I don't really know a lot about him, but looking at it, €4 million for an 18-year-old who made 16 appearances at Cerro Porteño, 12 in the Primera División A Puerta, 2 in Libertadores, scoring both a goal in both. There we go. That's easy for me to say. Cormac, I'll come to you. I mean, he is a left back, so maybe one to really compete with Dorgu.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously don't know too much about him, but I was reading his interview when he signed, and I like his mentality. He was saying, he doesn't want to be loaned out. He wants to challenge Dorgu for that spot, and I really like that mentality from a young 18-year-old. And, just seeing bits of clips in preseason and whatnot, or training, he looks pretty physical for an 18-year-old. And, if he has that pace as well, like Dorgu has, I mean, why not give him a chance and put pressure on Dorgu? I think Dorgu kind of has it easy. Obviously Milasia is going out and Shaw is kind of, regressing a lot. So I think it would be, good competition for Dorgu there as well, and just drive the two of them onwards. But I'm really excited about Diego Leon. I really like his mentality, and 18-year-old has a whole career ahead of him. Hopefully, he could turn into something special at United.
Yes, let's hope so. Toluwa, what did you make of the transfer?
Yeah, just like you guys, I had no idea who he was. I've never heard of him. But then when I saw we signed him, of course, I looked up some clips on YouTube, and looks like a really decent young prospect. Not trying to get too ahead of myself, because, the league competition that he was facing was just going to be completely different. But it's funny to me because, if he could be that guy to challenge Dorgu and maybe even surpass him, it's really ironic that we're signing an 18-year-old like him, and Luke Shaw is leaving the club. When we signed Luke Shaw, he was 18 and was supposed to be the next big left back in England. And look how that turned out. So I'm hopeful that Diego Leon is a stud. Like, I'm hoping. He looks physically like he can already match most players in the league. Like, he looks like from the clips I saw, he's quick and he's strong. He bounces off players like it's nothing. But this is a different prospect. The pace of the league is much quicker, so his physical attributes might not look as impressive. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, even in preseason, he looks like he fits like a glove, even from the 2-second clip United gave us. He looks like he fits.
So we need 2 seconds. I mean, you mentioned about bold claims, Toluwa. it'll have to be a really bold claim, like our Dan putting Lenny Yoro in the top 10 French players who've played for United of all time, and Lenny Yoro had not stepped onto the Old Trafford pitch. Going to be tough to beat that, but you could be up there. You could be up there. We'll have to wait and see. We have to head into rumours as well, which, we have to try and pick out the actual rumours that have some weight to it. But with Andre Onana seemingly out and maybe might miss the start of the season, the rumour mill has been around Emiliano Martinez, who will also be suspended for the start of the season. Yeah, that's not quite worked out. But Martinez to United, how high do you rate that, Toluwa? How likely is it to happen? And do you see Martinez in a Manchester United shirt?
I mean, this one is kind of tough, honestly, because Martinez has good ability, but I just feel like he's way too much of a character, and Onana is also too much of a character. So that's going to create internal conflict, I feel like, almost immediately. Because once Onana comes back from his injury, if we sign Martinez, he's not going to want to just sit on the bench for Martinez. He's going to think he's of equal standing with him. And that might create some issues. And I don't think that's what Amrim really needs at the start of the season when our schedule is a bit tough. But like you said, he's also going to be suspended. So that just fundamentally makes no sense, because it's almost as if it just doesn't make sense. I'm not a fan of that signing. I think we should be looking at other keepers with a little bit younger, but still have the same ability. I know we don't have the transfer fund, so that makes everything so much more difficult. And I don't know, we're just in a tough situation, but I feel like we're not going to make it better if we sign someone like Martinez, who's known to be an outspoken character. I feel like right now we need level-headed guys who are just determined to get us back to the top.
Cormac, what do you make of Martinez potentially to Man United?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Toluwa. I'm not really a big fan of it. I think if it were to happen, I think Onana would need to go, because I just think with our money situation, what's the point of having two, keepers who on paper are kind of up there, some of the best keepers around. But I do think we need a keeper. Onana the last few years has shown us we can't trust him really. So I know earlier on there was a bit of talk about Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, who we used to have but had to pass him on because we couldn't get a work permit from him. But I would like to see kind of maybe a cheaper option as to was kind of touching on, rather than another big one. But I mean, Martinez is a good keeper. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him in that, but I think Onana would have to leave first. But I definitely do think keepers is a huge issue for us, because even Bayindir as a backup, as he showed last season, was not great at all, bar that one game he had against Arsenal. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But if Onana can be passed on somehow, then I would be for him coming in.
It's an interesting one. As you said, Toluwa, he's a character, but I feel like if you're a goalkeeper, if you've ever been a goalkeeper, you have to be a character. You have to be the most mentally strong player on the team, because if a goal goes in, the rest of the team who feel like they've done their work, this might be an unstoppable shot. There might be nothing you could do about it, straight into the top corner. You've got to have that mental resilience to say, no, we're still in this. Let's get back into it. A keeper makes a mistake, it most likely ends up in the back of the net, of your own net. A striker makes a mistake, we will shrug it off and say, oh, I can't believe how bad that miss was, and we go again. So to be a goalkeeper, you have to be different. And I feel like as much as he's grated on me in past seasons, he grated on the media as well with his World Cup win and his antics. But I feel like if you have a character like that, not only is it a bit of a boost to the team, but it's also a boost to the fans as well. Can I see it happening? Not whilst Onana's at the club. I agree with you both. I think if he signs for United, that's the exit door shown to Onana. Yeah. And I feel like Amrim's going to give Onana one more season to properly settle into the squad and see what he can actually do, and hopefully be the keeper we know he can be. He can pull off some amazing saves, and if he can just sort out that decision making, if he can make more right decisions than wrong, there's a solid keeper in there that can get us back into Europe. And I say into Europe, let's start with Conference League and Europa League and see where we go from there. There's some strong teams in the Premier League. We saw that last season, so we should see how it goes. And the final rumour I want to touch on today, because there's going to be plenty of them here on the Daily Manchester United. Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford to Manchester United. Cormac, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd love to see it happen. I know it's a bit of a saga now, but I mean, another kind of like Cunha, proven in the Premier League. He's been phenomenal at Brentford. Scored against us plenty of times, and yeah, I've always been a big fan of his. The price tag again, I think a bid of like £62 million was rejected, so it's looking like we're gonna have to go even higher than that to get him, which I'm not too big a fan of, but I would be all for him coming to the club. I think another attacking option up there, maybe then we could push Ahmad out to right wing back, where I thought he was phenomenal for us. Because I think right back's an issue for us right now. I don't think Dalot is cutting it. But even it's just more options, and even maybe he could, put a shifting up top striker if he has to. But yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Brian Mbeumo. I think he's a fantastic player, and yeah, if we can get him signed up as well, I think our attack will really be looking good going into the season.
How about you, Toluwa?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I like about Mbeumo, obviously last season was like technically his breakout season. 27 goals and assists in the league is just tremendous. That's crazy when you think about it, because I remember back when it was like the times of Drogba and Torres, like 20 goals in a season was like the top. That was the peak. And now Mbeumo is just getting 20 goals like it's nothing. That's crazy. And his rise has been steady too. It's not like he just burst on. Like, he's been steadily improving every season. Getting him at an age of 26, just like Cunha, which is like he's getting into his best years, So it's another positive. I feel like the intent is good from Ineos and Amrim if he's suggesting these targets. Like, these are good targets. And the fact that these guys want to come to United is even better. They're going to actually want to play for us, and they're not really going to care about the money. So it's another great signing. And like Cormac said, it gives us just another great option in attack where we can actually rotate a lot and experiment different things against different teams. Imagine a right-hand side of Mbeumo and Ahmed. Like, that's going to be so hard to stop from some teams. They're gonna have to double up. They're gonna have to send their winger to track back, and if they don't, it's going to be dangerous. So I'm excited. These are actually signings that make sense for what the manager's trying to do. I feel like previous managers just make signings to make signings. They don't really make sense to fit the culture of the team. Some players don't actually, like, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. And I don't know, with Amrim, it seems like he really does have intention and he knows what he's doing. And even with the system, it took me a long while to like kind of get used to us playing in a 3 at the back. I've only known United playing with 4, so like him coming in and changing it completely was bold. And I know at first it seemed like the team just wasn't clicking, but I saw good things. Even though we conceded silly goals, which that's probably one of our biggest problems, is conceding silly goals and then not capitalizing on our chances. If we can fix those two, I feel like we're going to be much better than people let on. So I'm excited, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Mbeumo, I just want to touch on him before we wrap up today. 136 appearances so far in the Premier League. He scored 42 goals and had 28 assists. Remarkable. So you're looking at 60-odd, 70-odd goals and assists in 136 appearances. Yeah, very exciting if that happens. And I think it could happen for the right price. Brentford will not want to let him go. As they've already said, they've rejected 2 bids, latest bid being £62.5 million, according to Manchester Evening News. It's very clear they will not let him go. They're making signings of their own as well in Brentford. They've recently, as of today, I think, recording-wise, they've announced Jordan Henderson. They've also had Kieran Kelleher join their ranks as well. So they're making signings as if they want to progress forward, and they intend to progress forward. And the way for progressing forward for them is, whilst they've lost Thomas Frank, they've got to hold on to Mbeumo, or if they can't hold on to him, they've got to get as much money from him as possible. Final thoughts then. I'll come to you first, Cormac. We're back. What do you make of pre-season? I think we've got Leeds coming up on Saturday in the US. Hopefully a chance to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually pretty happy with our preseason schedule. I think we play West Ham, Bournemouth, and maybe Everton as well. So getting games in against Premier League opposition. And yeah, it'll be a great chance to see the likes of Diego Leon, as we talked about. And yeah, really just get players settled into the, Amrim system. Him and Cunha, the new guys, getting games against Premier League clubs is perfect ideal for, transferring into this system. And yeah, we'll see how the preseason goes, and hopefully, we won't have any terrible things, touch wood, like Lenny Arrow last season getting injured in preseason. But if we can make it out, injury free and put in some decent, shifts from players and get decent results, I think, it'll be great going into the Premier League season. Hopefully we can kick on from there.
And Toluwa, obviously, we're back. Season 2, we're here. It's your first pre-season with the Daily Manchester. What do you expect from this one?
I'm expecting. I'm not gonna expect too much to start, just because I want to just see what the guys can do, creativity wise, just athleticism wise. I'm really excited because seeing the players look so much leaner really gives me confidence that they're actually taking this serious. I feel like a lot of the players, for lack of better terms, were just not fit majority of the season. Like, they just couldn't last a full 90. They just looked tired by 60 or 70 minutes. And if they can just last a full 90 and work harder than some other teams, we can just get a result by grinding it out. No shame in winning 1-0 if we're winning, in my opinion, especially with this in the state that we're in. So I'm excited to see, like Cormac said, us play against Premier League opposition for the only preseason games. That's perfect. That'll tell me right away what I need to know about where United is trying to go. And they're good opposition too. I know on paper these teams sound like, oh, these are just bottom half teams, but they've shown consistently, like the likes of Bournemouth. I know West Ham and Everton are kind of always flip-flopping from whether they want to be good or not, but Bournemouth is definitely a team that we need to be careful of. I think we lost both of our games to Bournemouth, if I'm correct, or maybe we definitely lost at Old Trafford, and maybe we drew at Bournemouth. So they're a team we need to definitely be careful of, because for some reason we struggle against them. And West Ham too, even though I think we should have beat West Ham. Dalot's miss will always haunt me for the rest of my days. And that's the game that Ten Hag got sacked. So I'll never forget that.
How could we forget? It made global news, for goodness sake, the week after. But hey-ho, yeah, I've sort of wiped last season clean, and it never happened in my book. We'll look back at the history books of the 24-25 season. It's an empty page. Nothing happened. Nothing interesting happened anyway. No other team won their 20th top flight title. We don't need to talk about that. Anyway, what we do need to talk about is, well, here we are, the end of our first series, or the first episode of season 2. And of course, we can't go without saying a big thank you to another one of our sponsors in Zencastr, because here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs if you fancy it, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently, much like us here at the Daily Manchester United. So if you're interested and ready to tell your story, make sure you check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. A big thank you to Bionic and Zencastr for partnering us here on the Daily Manchester United. From myself, from Kieran McGinley, from Toluwa, and from Cormac, it's been a great first episode. In the words of our very own Niall Hannigan, we are so back. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.